Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about my ideas that got rejected from my own games. And I'm going to start all the way back with Fallout, which was now, almost 30 years ago that project got started. And I was project lead or design director or game director on a lot of these titles, and my own ideas didn't make it in. So I've done a lot of videos where I talk about learning from failure, and I talk about how you can learn from other people's failures. So learn from mine. Learn from ideas I wanted to put into games that got thrown out. Let's start with Fallout. I know I've talked before that when we switched from GURPS and Chris Taylor came up with a new attribute system, it was the main attributes, and then I suggested adding luck. At the next team meeting where I was explaining what this new system was that we were going to be implementing, I realized that the attributes now spelled out A-slips. So I told the team right then and there, this is great. We're going to switch to this new system. We're going to call it A-slips. Well, Jason Swin came up to me afterwards and he just went, that also spells out special. And yeah, I admitted that was a better acronym, and that's the one we went with. But I always think back on A-slips. Similarly, and I know I've mentioned this before, I had pushed for Fallout ending with a party. That you come back to Vault 13, you've gotten them a water chip, you've taken care of the mutant army and the master, and everybody has a big party for you, and there's cake and balloons. That got rejected in favor of Leonard Barsky's idea that the Overseer kick you out. In hindsight, better idea. But at the time I was like, I don't know if people are going to buy this. Let's jump in up to Arcanum, the next project I worked on. I've already mentioned how the original design doc was attributes and skills cost more points for higher levels of them. But a lot of people didn't like that because it meant that you could go up a level, be given a few points, and nothing you wanted to spend points on used all those points. So people felt weird having points left over. Even though we allowed you to let them roll over into the next level, people didn't like that, and we went to the 1-point system. I have a whole video on that. My system got thrown out, the 1-point system got put in. Something I thought I'd mentioned, but in case I haven't, is I had an entire design for additional tech skills, not just the 4 that we shipped with. There was a whole range of them, which were things like combine mechanical, combine advanced tech, repair mechanical, repair advanced tech, create bullets, create dynamite, create batteries, create fuel, and all of these were tech skills that gave you tech points when you spent points in them. So you'd go into the tech area on the magic tech meter, and all of them were tied into the orthogonal skill advancement: beginner, expert, master. So you not only could spend points on them, but you could go do quests, and that would open up new and better things you could do with the skill. That got thrown out. We reduced it to 4 tech skills that we shipped with, and the rest got thrown out in favor of Jason Anderson's tech schematics. Better idea. I have a whole video on those schematics, and they're gorgeous. But my idea got rejected, and I was like, The next project I did, Temple of Elemental Evil, when we made the world map, it was like Hamlet, the Moat House, the Temple, Nulb. There was nothing up here in the northwest corner of the map. And I created some filler locations for up there, for some things to do when you were lower level, and then a few things to do when you were high level that just had nothing to do with the temple. Those got removed early when we realized we had absolutely no time to make those locations and to get them populated and balanced and bug fixed. And subsequently, the game has been called out for not having a lot of stuff to do outside of the temple. Hamlet was not as very exciting, but a lot of those Hamlet people were going to send you off to quests. I think one of them exists where someone asks you to go take care of some spiders, and you do go to a little map that has a forest with some spiders on it. There were supposed to be a lot more of those and a lot more detailed. Similarly, the vignettes were also supposed to be more detailed, but we just did not have time for that. I know I've talked about in WildStar, I was a big proponent of advancing more of the social aspects of an MMORPG because that was what set MMORPGs apart from their RPG cousins. So I wanted the newspaper, and I've talked about that in a video where there's going to be a newspaper that was based on your server, but then all the other servers, it could collect news from across all the different servers, and then local news from just your server. There'd be a section on your guild, cool things going on. The auction house would be done in there through classifieds. Never got done. Similarly, on WildStar, we were making an internal video, and I know if you watch the blooper video I did for the Outer Worlds, there's a section that's called internal video. Sometimes we made videos to show the team, to bring everyone up to speed on what we had done. I was putting together a video for WildStar towards the end of when I was there, and I set it to the Scissor Sisters song, Sex and Violence. And while that song played, sex and violence, and all these hardcore lyrics, there was a video of the player going around doing what players do in MMOs and killing monsters and taking their stuff. Never got used. I think I mentioned in the South Park video that at one point we were trying to make combat different, and I made an entire new combat system that did combat turns the way we shipped with, but when you were done with your turn, you did not move back to your original spot. I called it like unresetting combat. You basically stayed wherever you were, which meant you might run over here and then you'd stay, and then somebody could come and hit you, so now they're on the other side of you. It made the combat scene more frenetic, but also more tactical. You had to think, where am I going to end up when I finish this ability? If this isn't a ranged ability, I'm going to end up over there. It was interesting. We didn't go with it. I think we went with a really good one. Part of me is like, I wonder what it would have been like if we just put a flag in saying, don't reset your position after combat. For Pillars of Eternity, I had suggested that because the Watcher was supposed to see and talk to the undead, that rather than just say he did that, or say the player was doing that, yes, she can actually talk to undead, or she can talk to dead from beyond the veil. Show it. Visualize it. So if you came across a trap and you detected it, instead of you just seeing the trap outline on the ground, you'd see a ghost figure walk, and then the trap would go off in ghostly translucent form, and maybe they'd fall in a pit, or maybe a spike would come out and hit the ghost form and they'd die. Or if you found a secret door, it would actually show this ghost person walk up to the bookcase and pull a lever, and a ghostly bookcase would swing forward. All this could be done with shaders, so we didn't need any new animations or anything. It was all done with shaders, but each one would have to be every trap and every secret door, you'd have to make sure it looked okay in that view. But it was one more thing on the checklist. It's too much to do. We didn't end up doing it. However, when I went to Outer Worlds, I had a similar idea for any skill that you had that was boosted by a companion. So if you got a few extra points to lockpick or persuasion because of a companion you had, then I was going to say whenever that skill succeeded just because of that boost from the companion, we would visualize it. Maybe if you were in a dialogue with someone and you used persuasion and you got a bonus to that persuasion from one of your companions, when it showed you say the line, right before it showed you say the line you picked for companion, so you press that line that said persuasion next to it, it would show your companion lean in and go, basically he was giving you advice, and you go, persuade line, and then it would succeed, and that was your visual clue that skill worked because you had the companion. Similarly, if you're picking a lock and the companion boosted your skill and that's what made you be able to pick this lock, either they'd lean in or you just hear them go, don't forget those tumblers are a little tricky. And it would just be your reminder that you're succeeding right now because of that companion. I really liked that feedback. It was too much to do, especially the in dialogue additional cinematics, and it got pushed away. Similarly, for The Outer Worlds, we were making an internal video, the one that you see in the blooper reel. I'll link it below. I'd originally come up with a slightly different video that I set to the song Pumped Up Kicks, and the assistant producer who made the video we used, she did it all in her own time, and she knocked it out in like one evening. And it was amazing. And I'm like, forget mine, we're going with yours. And I even said, how did you do that? And she was like, oh, I have a degree in film studies. And I was like, it was like found money. I was like, from now on, you're in charge of all these trailers. You do whatever you want. Don't listen to me. But occasionally I think back and I go, I wonder what it would have been like with that Pumped Up Kick song in a Outer Worlds trailer. So what's the lesson to all this besides you learn from failure and learn from my failure? I think a big lesson is you have to realize that all your ideas are not going to make it into the game. Other people have better ideas than you. Even if you're the game director, even if you're the lead designer or the design director, programming director, it doesn't matter. Sometimes your ideas will get replaced with other ideas that are better, and that's fine. But then everybody here has to understand the corollary. Not everything in a game is something that the game director thought of, and in some cases may not have even wanted. There were things I wanted in some of my games that I didn't get, not because they weren't a good idea, but because we ran out of time and we went with a different idea just because it was possible to be implemented. So when you see ideas in games, realize not all of them came from the game director, and the ones that are in there may not have been ones the game director wanted. But understand that no matter how high you are up in the hierarchy, you won't get all your things in a game. So, and sometimes for very good reason. Don't make me say A-slips one more time. Anyway, learn from my failure.